Hi guys, I'm Mike and this is F1 Fanatics. Welcome back to another weekly news show, and this is the place where you can get your roundup of all the latest news in F1. So today guys, we will be talking through a few issues where we talk about the Autosport magazine, a few updates of cars that have been brought for this weekend's race, and also how can we not mention Typhoon Hagibis that is obviously disrupting this weekend's race. Guys, don't forget, if you are new around here, you can subscribe to the channel, click that bell notification, and you can keep up to date with all our latest content and watch more videos just like this. But for now guys, let's get into the news. So our first story of the day is the story that Autosport have said that they will focus more on their online content, which means that they are going to slowly and finally remove the magazines from the shelf. And now this, to me, is an end of an era. For me, I have been subscribed to Autosport at some points in my life, and then obviously when I was a student I couldn't afford it as much, and been focusing more on online content in recent times, so maybe it's people like me that have forced them to go this way. But I know for a lot of people it has been going for almost 70 years in its printed form, in 69 years, and yeah, it's just such a great magazine. The writers and the kind of motorsport journalists at kind of Autosport, and obviously across the different genres that are included on that, just produce such great content. I always remembered the kind of pre-season editions were absolutely fantastic, giving a full rundown of all the kind of maybe latest rule regulations going from there, what we might expect to see on the cars and what they actually mean, and explaining there. And they were just full of lots of great articles covering not only just F1 but motorsport in general. And I believe, you know, it's a big part of people's lives that will be gone, but as the world keeps changing, so does the way that you kind of get news and you get content to people. And obviously with more stuff on YouTube, and obviously the online edition of Autosport and subscribing to that, it is just kind of very much taking those firm steps into the future. But hopefully the majority of the people can keep their jobs with Autosport, because obviously with closing down with the paper edition, you think some people might lose their jobs. So hopefully it's not too much, and they can keep producing great content that Autosport is known for, and giving us, the fans, everything that we want, which they do a great job doing. The real kind of bad thing that you can say from this week is they have upped the prices from $4.99 to $10.99 for the edition, which is crazy. I mean, I know you're kind of pulling the shelved edition, but don't make people who enjoy it have to kind of pay extra for it. I mean, that's just not on. If you're going to axe it, just axe it. Don't make people who enjoy the magazine and who've been loyal supporter for years have to fork out extra money just to get it, because yeah, obviously you don't want to run it anymore. That was the main kind of bad point from the story for me. And then that kind of rounds up the news media in terms of there. We now look ahead to this week's race at Suzuka and the news around it. And how can we not talk about this weekend's race without talking about Typhoon Hagibis? And yeah, obviously it has interfered with proceedings of the weekend, because it is due to hit, or the worse it will be, in Suzuka on the Saturday. So what they've done, they've made a decision. FP1 and FP2 went ahead as planned this morning, with Mercedes topping both those sessions, and qualifying has been cancelled on the Saturday. There will be no action on the track on the Saturday, and all of it will be moved to the Sunday. So for people like me in the UK, that means waking up at 2 o'clock in the morning to watch qualifying, and I think we'll be getting the reaction out after that. So expect to see a very tired me on the very early hours of Sunday morning, and then the race will go ahead as planned in the UK at 6:10, but 2:10 local time in Japan. But the main thing you have to say about this, guys, is they've made the right decision. At the end of the day, it has to be safety first, and we all find it exciting when rain affects the race, but obviously the last time a typhoon affected the race, was obviously that very sad incident 5 years ago with Jules Bianchi that obviously shook the F1 world, and the last death, and hopefully the last death ever in Formula 1. But you can't guarantee these things within a sport that naturally will always come with an element of risk. But fingers crossed, everything can go ahead safe as planned, and yeah, hopefully things will be good for there. But that is my roundup of Typhoon Hagibis, and hopefully that's the last it's going to influence this race. Moving on to the teams now, and some fallout still from Sochi. Obviously, Kevin Magnussen was running in 8th place and received that 5-second penalty. Well, actually at the time he was running in 7th, went wide on turn 2 and then didn't go through the proper polystyrene chicanes in the right manner and received 5-second penalty. Seemed like a slam dunk. Kevin Magnussen is still very unhappy about this, and he will be bringing it up in the next drivers meeting. He's not letting this one go, and obviously Guenther Steiner was very brash and rash on the radio. In the heat of the moment, he said some things that he probably shouldn't have done. He was called before the stewards today, and it was rumoured that he might be getting a paddock ban, or the team itself might be getting something like a 250 grand fine. But in the end, they've decided to give Guenther Steiner a €7,500 fine. Probably the sensible thing. It's in the heat of the moment. They described it as morally damaging to the FIA. So they take this seriously, and I think if Guenther Steiner does anything more like this in the future, there will be harsher kind of punishments for him. But for now, it's not too bad. It was bad what he said on the radio. It's not the stewards' fault. They are just trying to do their jobs. So it was unfair of him to come out like he did. I know Raz on F1 had his views on this, and so guys, make sure you go and check out that video actually, because he ran down the video and what his thoughts on what the punishment should be quite well. And then we look ahead to this weekend now, and that is with Mercedes bringing upgrades, and it is their first upgrades that they are bringing since Hockenheim. Funnily enough, that was a rain-affected race too, and I imagine the forecast is still saying that it is going to rain during the qualifying and race, so it will be affected by rain here too. But they've made a minor upgrade to the barge boards, and they are hoping that obviously this narrows the gap that had been forming between them and Ferrari in the close of the season. And if FP1 and FP2 are anything to go by, they have certainly made a step up. Obviously, like we said, because obviously teams are running different systems, different programs, fiddling around with different setups, you can't necessarily take it as fact, and that's who's going to do well this weekend. But Valtteri Bottas has been quickest in both sessions, and Lewis Hamilton has been second quickest. Vettel was third quickest in FP1, and Verstappen was third quickest in FP2. So yeah, really interesting to see how that plays out in the race. But yeah, they will obviously be hoping rain affected, it won't necessarily make as big a difference as they want, but certainly going forward for the rest of the season, that it narrows the gap between them and Ferrari. Next up, we look at Red Bull, and they have, obviously, we were talking about it, have been saving their engine parts, saving the big Spec 4 engine upgrade in its fullest and kind of best state for this race, because it is the Suzuka Special. Honda, obviously being a Japanese manufacturer, they do like to kind of perform well in their home race, and Red Bull are really looking to secure a win for them. But interestingly enough, it is an upgrade to their Exxon Mobil fuel that Max Verstappen has been talking about this weekend, and says that this will bring a bigger improvement than the actual engine itself, and he is feeling confident about being competitive this weekend. And I keep mentioning it, if it does rain, then obviously Max Verstappen is proven to be one of the best drivers on the grid to perform in the rain. So yes, he will certainly be hoping for a good weekend, and Honda especially will be hoping that Max Verstappen can get them the win that they so desperately want here in their home Grand Prix. Williams were looking to test. I'm not sure if they did bring it out. I haven't been able to kind of get there, but they are certainly looking to go in a different direction with their 2020 aerodynamics, and they were going to experiment with a new front wing that looks very different to anything that they've previously put out, apparently. So they are now really firmly looking ahead to 2020, because obviously 2019 is a write-off. They are not going to finish any higher than that 10th position in the constructors, and they really need to make sure that they get the ball rolling for 2020 to maybe hopefully crawl up and at least start making progress at being competitive in the midfield again and start being a team that can regularly score points. Also making adjustments to their front wing are Renault. They are bringing a new upgrade. Obviously, they are pushing hard to try and still get that 4th spot in the Constructors' Championship. McLaren extended their lead last time out in Sochi with double points finish for their drivers. Obviously, Ricciardo being involved in that Giovinazzi sandwich in Sochi at the start of the Grand Prix, forcing him to retire, and Hülkenberg being only able to secure a 10th place finish. So they will certainly be looking for a strong weekend here to hopefully beat the McLarens and narrow that gap between 4th and 5th in the Constructors that currently stands at 33 points. And then finally, to round off, guys, the final news story is Yamamoto, who is a Japanese driver who has been driving in the Super GT. I believe he was the Super GT champion in 2018. So he is driving the Toro Rosso car this weekend. He drove it in FP1, taking Pierre Gasly's seat. But this shouldn't be kind of seen as maybe him looking to kind of get a seat into Formula 1 for next year at least, because Christian Horner has come out and said that he does not fit the criteria that Toro Rosso are looking for at this moment in time. But then this is also Christian Horner and Helmut Marko, who've said things like Pierre Gasly had his seat at Red Bull for the rest of the year, and we all know how that one turned out. But I don't expect Yamamoto to secure a seat in F1 next year, but I know Jenson Button rates him very highly, and I know Honda are desperately trying to get a Japanese driver into Formula 1 in at least Toro Rosso first, and then hopefully progressing on to the Red Bull senior team. And guys, that is the weekly news roundup. As always, don't forget, if I have missed anything, comment down below and let me know, and we're always happy to discuss news stories we get. But I think I've covered everything there, mainly being a tech update focused episode, this one, because you had 3 teams bringing kind of major upgrades there. Obviously, we hope that Typhoon Hagibis doesn't have a big impact on the race, but it would be exciting to see a bit of rain in Suzuka, because we all know that rain is a great equaliser and it makes things a little bit more exciting within that race. But guys, if you like this video, don't forget, give us a thumbs up. You can subscribe to the channel by clicking here. Maybe check out some of our other videos by checking out Kevin Magnussen versus Roman Grosjean, who's better, up here, and our full race preview to the Japanese Grand Prix up here. But guys, thanks for watching, and you F1 fans, keep racing!